Okay, episode 8, all things boxing. It's been about 3 weeks since we've been here, so there's been a lot that's been going on. And we're going to touch on all of those things today. So firstly, we had Kell Brook versus Amir on the Sky Sports show, on the Boxer show. Where was that? I don't even know where it was.
Must have been in, was it? Oh, it was Manchester, isn't it?
It's in Manchester, right.
Yeah.
So going into the fight, I actually felt Khan would win. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call. I actually thought Khan would win, but ended up getting stopped by Kell Brook in what round? What round was it?
Was it the 6th?
6? I felt like it might have been earlier than that.
No, I feel like it was the 6th, bro.
All right, I'll check that. But yeah, run me through the fight. What was your views?
You know what? Yeah, like it was disappointing. Obviously, I hold my hands up. I thought Khan would win it. But it was a very disappointing turnout for Khan. Very similar to like what we saw with Liam Williams the other day with Eubank Jr. Literally 0 punch resistance. The first jab had him rocking. And I don't think like the way the promoters are going on is like it was a stunning performance from Kell Brook. Even Kell Brook himself could have been heard saying that it was a masterclass. It wasn't. Like it was just a disappointing performance from Khan. And Kell Brook wasn't that great. I think he would have dispatched Khan probably in that first round, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I was disappointed with the fight in general. It was good to see them in the ring, as they are two kind of British. I wouldn't say greats, but they've sort of carried the sport for the last 10, 15 years, however long it's been. But yeah, man, there's not a lot to say on it for me. I always get this thing with Amir Khan, and I think I said it to you the other day, where everyone talks about his chin. Then at first you think, oh no, he's going to get knocked out. And then going into the fight, you think, oh, if he can just avoid getting hit, he might.
Yeah, no, 100.
But then he gets hit and you just get reminded as to why everyone goes on about his chin. It's disappointing because I still like Amir Khan a lot. He's been one of my favourite fighters to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I can really say about it, man.
Yeah, I think like you said, it was still good to see them in the ring, but like I think like you said on the night, it was like an anticlimax kind of thing. Because it's like the fight was just the quality was just not there. And I was backing Khan, like the whole thing of training with Bomac and training in America. And we know how that camp is over there with Crawford and Shakur Stevenson and all the other young guys, and everything that Amir Khan was saying in the build up to the fight was kind of making sense. And I felt like, money aside, Bomac isn't gonna attach himself to Khan, come all the way to England
if there's nothing
there. But they just looked like there was just nothing there. Like some of the shots, like that he was getting hit with, were on his forehead, and they were jabs. And they say the forehead is the most, is where you can take a punch. The most durable part of the head. And it was just sending his legs was like, there was just no offense coming from him either for the whole fight. I mean, he would do like a 1-2-1 and some straight fast punches that looked like a lot, but there was nothing there. And it just made me felt like, what has he been doing for however many months that he's been in America? Because they weren't an 8-week camp, it was a lot longer than
What's been going on in
sparring? How's he been sparring? He was saying he was doing 12 rounds, 4-minute rounds. I'm like, with who?
Like 10-year-olds or something.
Yeah, like who is he doing that with? And yeah, so it was I think it was really disappointing for me to see Khan like that. I think I agree with you. There was a lot of hype, unnecessary hype, that you can't really justify regarding Kell's performance. I didn't really see much.
He didn't have to do a lot.
He didn't have to do a lot.
Yeah.
Khan wasn't really even fighting him. And he didn't really finish him off either.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
I think the ref jumped in, didn't he? But yeah, I mean, off the back of that, anything you want to say just on the fight itself again?
No, I don't want to see either of them in the ring again.
Okay, that was what I was going to move on to.
I mean, talking about Kell Brook, Conor Benn, it makes a good spectacle on paper, but like I don't see Kell Brook beating Conor Benn. I don't see him beating Conor Benn.
He's like, I see him at the what card was over the weekend? There was a show on the weekend. He was there anyway, and he got interviewed, and he was basically like, I got the bit between my teeth, like I'm ready to.
It was the Josh Taylor card.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
I got the bit between my teeth. I'm ready to go in.
That's when he said it was a masterclass.
Yeah, to fight them all. Yeah, and Johnny Nelson was saying it was the masterclass. And
No, that's just all promotion, man.
But Kell like seemed like he believed that though. Aside, like Johnny Nelson is one guy, but Kell seemed like he believed that, and I'm just like, I don't know. I didn't think
he's probably just. I mean, look, we know that out of the
just
two,
building the fight.
Yeah, out of the two, he's made less money, and he's probably still feeling that he can make more money, and I guess he's got to say those things to justify putting on that fight, and it helps. It helps the promoters. It helps the fighters get the fight on. So yeah, I don't see how he can honestly believe
that he's
ready to go in with.
But at the same time, Josh, I gotta say, he's not calling out Crawford. He's not trying to rematch Crawford. He's not trying to rematch Errol. He's calling out, domestic guys that are not world level in Conor Ben and Eubank Jr. Well, he's not really calling out.
A load of nonsense.
He's not really calling out Eubank Jr. But I'm going to talk about Eubank Jr. one in a minute. But maybe he does have more of he does have much more pedigree than both of those. The world level fights that Eubanks operated at, he's like fallen short with Groves and Billy Joe, which wasn't really a world level fight at the time. But maybe he's just looking at that thinking, you know what, I've still got something in the tank. Maybe if the weight is right, maybe, I don't know. But from his performance,
I think all of that stuff is just goes into building Kell Brook for his next fight. I honestly can't see where he thinks he's gonna go in with Eubank Jr. and do anything. I don't see Eubank Jr. making any less than 160, so I don't think that fight would happen. As for the Conor Ben fight, I can see that happening, and it looks like it's gonna happen, but I just don't see what Kell Brook thinks he's gonna bring into the ring. Based on his last two performances.
Yeah. The Conor Ben thing kind of annoys me a little bit because I feel like, I'll explain, like, Eubank Jr. floats around. He floats around from middleweight to super middleweight, and he's willing to fight anyone. If the money is right, he's actually willing to fight anyone in those weight classes, and he calls out the champions. Conor Ben, on the other hand, he's got guys like, we always talk about the David Adenisians of the world, and guys that he should be in his own weight class fighting. So when he's like calling for the winner of this fight,
and it's not like Conor Ben's not going to have money fights moving forward. If he keeps going how he's going, like, I don't even think Conor Ben needs that fight. If
it was someone on the smaller circuit, like an up-and-coming welterweight who maybe is trying to get out there on TV platform and they was calling for the winner, I would get it. But it's like, all his interviews, Conor Ben, like, he'll talk about, my career's going in this direction. I'm looking for this. I'm focused on my own thing. Then when these...
It's contradictory.
Yeah, it's quite contradictory. And I like him, but I got to say, like, that's just how it comes
and
across.
We've spoken about it before, so we won't go too much into it, but I think it's just that fight there is just another fight that buys Conor Ben a little bit of time because he has been over promoted in a sense where you would think if you were just fresh in this boxing thing and you heard the way Eddie Hearn speaks about Conor Ben, he has, like, you would think he was a world level contender, and he hasn't been anywhere near that level. He is going to that level by the last 2 years. He's shown that he will get to that level if he keeps improving. But yeah, it's probably just, I think it would just be another fight just to pad out his record a little bit, and you can kind of make a case for him to fight Kell Brook on the path that he's going.
Yeah, I don't really want to see. I don't know who would you prefer to see? Kell and Conor or Kell and Eubank?
Kell and Eubank.
Why?
Because I just don't think. I mean, look, Kell Brook's been to middleweight before to fight Triple G, but I just think that was a while ago, obviously, and like I said, based on what he was in there with a lifeless Khan. And it took him how many rounds to get him out of there? I just don't. He won't be able to stay away from Eubank Jr. And it would just be he will end up looking like Khan.
Yeah,
did it against Kell Brook. So yeah, I don't want to see that. I feel like this whole jumping weight classes thing just for the sake of two names in two different weight classes fighting it wasn't great when Kell did it to fight Triple G or when Khan did it to fight Canelo. But them two fights there were like you're fighting pound for pound greats who are pound for pound names as well. So there is an argument to say, you know what, it's going to be a massive payday. Let me take the risk. But doing it to fight doing it to fight Eubank Jr. just not for me, man. Not for me.
Yeah, and we both agree that Khan is completely
he can't.
Finished.
Yeah.
Just playing the other side. If Kell Brook is gonna have one more fight, just if you're saying you'd want it to be against.
Yeah, I prefer to see it against Conor Benn.
Yeah.
I don't think Conor Benn will dispatch him in 1 or 2 rounds. So I think it might be a good fight for like the first half of the fight. But I do think Conor Benn would deal with him. Yeah. I
think he might dispatch of him in 1 or 2 rounds because I feel like what I'm noticing with these guys is the first thing that's going is the punch resistance. Conor Benn won't do a catch weight because he'll know that if he can have it at 147, and Kell, if he is not money hungry, but if he is doing it for money, which he probably is, he's gonna have to come down to that weight. So yeah, that was that card, that was that topic. We also had all 3 of them names again. We had same thing I'm saying about Conor Benn calling out Eubank when Eubank beat Williams.
It's just
why
even with that, it makes more sense with the whole Ben Eubank.
Yeah.
I can see why that conversation has come about. But
still, in terms of direction,
but it's just it's just staying like just do what you're doing at your weight class.
You got enough to
even like when Amir Khan went up to up to middleweight to fight Canelo or whatever the weight was. That must have been a catch weight, innit? But either way, like Khan's done his career and campaigned at super lightweight and welterweight.
Yeah,
he's free to do what he wants now. But when you're not even fighting the top British contenders,
the top guys in your weight,
like for me, there's just no need for it, man. And I just think that's people playing games with the whole promotion thing, just keeping names relevant, really.
Yeah. Okay, so in summary, for Khan, he's had a great career. I think we're not going to go over it again because we have gone over it in the build-up to the Kell Brook fight. But I think, personally, just the way he looked after that fight, the cuts, not even the cuts, but the bruises. He looked quite vulnerable and don't want to say feeble, and there's just no need anymore. So hats off to Khan for all he's achieved. And hopefully he calls it a day. I feel like that's been the energy that he's been given. And he's kind of a pioneer in British boxing, isn't he?
Yeah, man.
British boxing, isn't he? So moving on to the Josh Taylor fight. You want to kind of talk us through this one?
Yeah, so obviously going into the fight, I must admit I didn't know too much about Jack Catterall going into it. I do know as much as he has been waiting for his chance to fight at world level or get a world title fight for a while now. But because of that, going into it, I was kind of expecting to see Josh Taylor go in there and do what he does and come out the convincing winner. You know, it was a mandatory fight as well. However, I've never seen Josh Taylor fight the way he did in that first 6 rounds. He looked very tense, smothering his work, was rushing things. He wasn't getting Jack Catterall wasn't letting him get anything off, and he was just getting completely outboxed for that first 6 rounds,
which is rare.
And he Catterall put Josh Taylor on the canvas again. Wasn't expecting that. And Jack Catterall did a very good job of just completely nullifying him, but getting off. His counter punching was like very, very good, like world level kind of. Do you know what I'm saying? So going into 7th round, I think I had him 5-1 up, and that was with a knockdown as well. And then the second half of the fight was quite messy. There was a lot of holding going on. Obviously, Josh Taylor kind of got himself in gear a little bit and was on the front foot a little bit more in the second half of the fight. But come to the decision now, and I definitely had Jack Catterall winning the fight. And they gave it to Josh Taylor with one of the cards 1-1-4 to
1-1-1.
1-1-1.
Yeah. So we had 1-1-3 to 1-1-2, 1-1-1, 1-1-4, and 1-1-2 to 1-1-3.
And I mean, like,
So
I don't think
only
I've
one
watched,
judge gave it to Catterall by 1 round,
Yeah.
by 1 point.
and I don't think I've seen a fight or watched a fight. Obviously, there have been robberies in the past, but
In our time.
I haven't seen a fight where I'm like, whoa, like, that was bad. And
Or
considering,
you're definitely sure of the winner.
and considering the magnitude of it as well, like,
Yeah,
as for
unified.
undisputed
Yeah. Not
super lightweight
yeah,
champion,
yeah.
Jack Catterall must have felt gutted, and he was gutted. He walked out the ring straight away. But yeah, it just highlights this problem with boxing where you can get these weird decisions that can change the course of someone's career, you know, and it's damaging for the sport. It's damaging for the athletes themselves.
Yeah.
Sorry, that said, I do think there is an argument to say that Jack Catterall didn't do enough to go there and take the belts off him.
I think that's what Carl Froch said. I just want to add this in. I saw a tweet from Carl Froch, and he was basically saying, when you're the challenger and you fight the champion in their backyard or whatever, and you don't dominate, you know, the judges don't like that. They don't want to see that if you run around for the last 5 rounds. And as much as I get it, like, this is an unwritten rule.
Yeah.
Like, boxing is still boxing.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter where you are,
yeah.
champion, challenger. There's an argument to say that, if you're the champion and you've got all the belts, you should be dominating guys. You shouldn't be losing rounds. Or like, how do we, you know, like, the judges should still score it as it is. All this challenger champion thing. If you win, you win.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? If you win the round, you win the round. You shouldn't have to, like.
But that said, the way the fight went the second half, I mean, with that 1-1-4, 1-1-1 scorecard,
Yeah.
then that means they've given rounds to Josh Taylor in the first half of the fight, which just weren't there.
Yeah.
That scorecard was shocking. But what I was going to say is that when you're in Glasgow, in Josh Taylor's backyard, he is the undisputed champion. You're used to Josh Taylor dominating fights. The crowd are cheering for every missed shot, every block shot, and they're cheering like he's landed it. I think we forget sometimes that the judges are watching this in real time. They're not watching it on TV. So that whole argument of when you go to someone's backyard, you've got to take it out of the judge's hands. I can see that argument when it's a scrappy fight, and the second half of the fight was very scrappy.
I can see it, bro, and I'm just going to play devil's advocate here quickly because I'm trying to think if I was Jack, if I was in his position. And my thing is that although I can see the pressure of judges and the crowd and all this stuff, and they're only human, it's like you're judging a fight of a certain magnitude for a reason. Like, it's not me or you judging it for the first time. You're meant to be experienced. You're meant to, you know, it's like saying, oh, well, you know, there's a lot of pressure on this guy to make weight. So if he doesn't, like, making excuses for a guy that shouldn't make weight. If you're a championship fighter, you should make weight. Whether you feel good at the weight or whatever, but you shouldn't miss the weight, you know. And I'm saying the same thing with the judges. Like, we should kind of be looking at them a little bit side-eye because they can't turn around and say, oh, well, there's people cheering and the cheering got the best of me. That's like, they're there to judge. They're not there to...
But I do feel like, and the problem with it is, and I was thinking about this before we come here, the problem is the whole judging system in boxing comes down to someone's opinion. There's no... It's not like in football where you have a scoreboard and the person with the most goals wins the game. It is... The scorecards, it comes down... Things like ring generalship, depending on what you like to see in a boxer, it comes down to your opinion. And I think, so, because you can't go, that judge that gave it 1-1-4, 1-1-1, if he says that's what he thinks it was, then that's what he thinks it was.
But that's why they have 3 judges.
I know.
And that's why they don't have 1, you know. But from where I'm sitting, bro, it's like, it was so clear. Like, the maths doesn't really add up. How can both fighters get points taken away? Josh Taylor's been knocked down. I've seen one interview, and it was Ben Davison, who is Josh Taylor's coach. And he's the only one who said that he gave Josh Taylor 1 round in the first half of the fight. Yeah. In the first 6-7 rounds. He gave him 1 round, and that was round 4. But then, how has he come back without knocking down Jack?
It's like, impossible for him to win the fight.
The maths don't actually really make sense.
Yeah, it's impossible for him to
win. No matter what you like or what you like, as much as the second half of the fight was scrappy, It kind of reminds me of, the fight of two halves with Eubank Jr. and Billy Joe. Billy Joe won the first 6 rounds. Excuse me. And Eubank came back and won. I gave 5 of the next 6. Lost round 11 or 12, one of them. But it was still kind of clear.
Yeah, no, it was
clear.
Yeah, it
like
was
no one was
clear.
really saying robbery. There was no knockdowns. There was no points. But I'm saying the knockdown. If the knockdown, I know it's only a 10-8 round.
That's the only hard statistics that the judges have to go by.
But what about
the flopped that?
punches thrown, punches landed? When you look at that, I can't remember exactly what it was.
They don't use that.
I know, but it's like that's what they're looking at.
Yeah,
that's what everybody's looking at. And I mean, we could go round and round with this one, but what I felt was really sad, and this is not Josh's fault, but Jack stepped aside prior. Remember, so he stepped aside so that Josh Taylor can have a unification fight.
Okay, I didn't know that.
He was entitled to fight. He was in line to fight Josh Taylor, and he stepped aside, took step aside money as well, but he stepped aside so that Josh Taylor can go and unify, and then Josh Taylor come and fought him. So it's kind of honourable both ways. And it's like, so he's waited, stepped aside, got his chance, gone to the backyard, and then that's happened. And it's like, it is sad for boxing, because I'm watching that as a fighter, thinking, I don't want to be in no close fights, or I don't I can't let a fight go the distance. That was the first thing I said to a few of my friends in the WhatsApp group. Was like, fights can't go the distance. Like, if this is what's going to be happening, where only one judge gave it to him by 1 point.
I think though, it does kind of highlight, if you're gonna go in and try and box that fight, count up. Look, the art of. I've always said, like, defense is harder than offense in boxing. Anyone can go in there and throw punches and catch someone with the odd shot, but actually not getting hit and keeping it clean is a real art. And the only real person we've seen recently being able to master that is Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather can go in there, throw less punches, but still make it look like he's the clear winner. I mean, look at the Canelo fight, for example. Floyd versus Canelo. That's probably one of the best performances I've ever seen. He's in there, he's making him miss, and he's landing shots. And there's no, I mean, even in that one, we saw a dodgy card, didn't we? But a dodgy scorecard. But it's like, you have to, if you're going to go, you do open, if you're not going to go in there and do that as efficiently as you can, you open yourself up to these kind of things happening, you know?
My argument with that is that, I mean, you have guys like...
Sorry, just to cut you through. It's like, if you're in there and you're just trying to defend, you then open it up for the other guy to be busier than you. Yeah. And that's what happened in the second half of the fight.
But this is like... You have cases like Floyd Mayweather, Roy Jones maybe, who are... They're not the only great fighters, but in their time, they've been kind of set apart. You know, they've been a step above. Excluding guys like Mike Tyson and Wilder, who are knocking guys out, because if you knock guys out,
there's no
the fight. Yeah. But I mean, Jack Catterall was in there with an undisputed champion. Like, it's not gonna be easy. Like, it's not meant to be easy. Like, he shouldn't have to do more. Do you understand? He shouldn't have to put on that kind of a. He shouldn't have to be like do the Floyd Mayweather thing in order to. Like, if he doesn't dominate, like, you're not meant to dominate Josh Taylor. No, I hear what you're saying. And that's why we look on Floyd as so, because you're not meant to dominate Canelo. You're not meant to dominate these kind of guys, Manny Pacquiao. You understand? So I'm saying, I think it's a bit unfair to even think in that light where it's like, oh, well, if you had done this. Because if Josh Taylor's making it scrappy, the guy's massive at the weight. He can fight inside and outside. Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you not? Like, how do you not? Like, you know, but some rounds were close in the back end of the fight, but I didn't really see Jack Catterall get like pinged, or what I mean by pinged is like, you know, clean shots being landed on him. So I think it's sad. I think it was good to see everyone at ringside, even the sometimes not biased commentators, but the commentators that sit on the side. I was very...
Ben Shalom come out and said he's embarrassed.
Embarrassed, disgusted. I heard these terms are flying around. Guys were saying it's disgusting. Spencer
Fearon.
No, not Spencer Fearon. Is it Spencer
Oliver?
Oliver?
I know who you're talking about,
Spencer Oliver, even Adam Smith, Johnny Nelson. Like, I don't think there was anyone in that you know, even like Andre Ward and Timothy Bradley, who were doing it for, I guess, Top Rank. There was no one who really agreed with that, and it was good to see fighters, ex-fighters, people on Twitter, and you know, ringside officials somewhat be quite vocal about that. And I think that has led to Josh Taylor put out that tweet. I don't know if you saw it. No, he put out a tweet saying he's had time to mull it over, because he was thinking that he came out in the press conference. He was like, "Oh, I won the fight."
Won the fight clearly. Yeah.
And he was a bit annoyed about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Maybe he's watched it back or someone's had a word with him, but he's saying that he gets that it was close and he's willing to rematch Jack, but not at 140. He's going up to 147. And just to add on to what you were talking about his performance, that was the first thing I saw. When I saw him getting hit with them punches, 3-4 punches at a time, I was like, he just looked, when he looked stiff, maybe he just was dead out of weight.
Well, yeah.
Maybe he was.
It could be the weight. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the weight. Like you said, he's a massive super lightweight, or lightweight, or whatever you want to call it. And we all know that he's planning to move up. I do think being back in Glasgow, being back in Scotland, fighting in front of a home crowd might have played a part. I mean, you wouldn't think that someone of his caliber, I mean, he's fought at the highest caliber, amateur level as well, so you wouldn't have thought that would play a part, but you never know. He did seem very tense to me at the start. Maybe put a lot of pressure on himself to dispatch Jack Catterall how he probably would have expected to. But yeah, man, maybe Catterall got under his skin as well, and maybe that was maybe he
Catterall was definitely
because he just
good.
seemed like he was just rushing a lot.
Yeah. It could have been the southpaw thing.
Yeah,
but again,
that as well.
At that level, if you're talking about fighting Crawford, who's a switch hitter, and like, you know how to fight southpaws.
Yeah.
I saw an interview from Shane McGuigan, who is his former trainer. Obviously now he's trained by Ben Davison, and Shane was just saying like, and Carl Frampton, who used to train with in that stable, they're just saying that like he's making the weight wrong. Maybe he's not doing enough like strength and conditioning. I think Shane was saying, and maybe too much technical, and just that he's basically going backwards. I don't know. Like I can't, even if I watch his fights, I can't say that off the back of one fight. But Shane, who's obviously done training camp after training camp and seen hundreds of rounds of sparring, you would think that he would know. So I felt that was interesting because I hadn't really seen anyone that was thinking along those kind of lines, other than Shane. But yeah, we move forward. Hopefully, whether Jack Catterall, I still think Jack Catterall should pursue not so much beating Josh Taylor, but getting those belts. So like maybe he should have the rematch at a later date. I also don't think it's the best idea for Josh's career to go.
This is the problem now, because he's put in that performance against Josh Taylor. He ain't got no belts out of it.
No, but what will happen is if Josh Taylor does go up, them belts will get.
They'll get.
And he should be mandatory straight away for one of them at least. Does that mean, maybe that's something
I don't know the politics that go into.
Maybe that's something that the board can do, because I know there's been some pressure on the board to look at the performance and look at the judges.
But even then, it's like,
but nothing really comes.
Just back to the judges thing. It's like they're saying they're going to investigate it. What are they going to investigate?
I don't know.
What are they going to look like? They can't. They don't know what was going.
Because they say this and then it's like months will pass and no one will.
What are they going to do? Ask him to explain his scorecard. Well, he's going to say, "Well, I thought you won this round, that round."
I think that's something that should happen, bro. You know, when fighters say certain things at press conferences, the board call them in and they give them a talk. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like if managers step out of line, it happens all the time. You know, I'm not saying a slap on the wrist, but you know, people need to be held accountable. And maybe if that fear of having to explain your cards, that you're going to be a little bit more like, okay, you know, intentional about what you're doing. And sometimes these things need to happen in the sport for big changes like this to happen. Okay, so that's that. Hopefully, like I said, Jack gets his shot, but I hope he got paid well for that fight. I'm sure he did. Moving forward, we've got half an hour. So Dillian Whyte and Tyson Fury. We have seen... So where was we at last time? Last time I think we was waiting for Dillian Whyte to sign the contract. Frank won the purse bid, beat the Zone and Matchroom. Beat Matchroom. Won the purse bids. I think it was a record highest purse bid of 41 million or 42 million or something like that. Tyson's taken 30 or 30 plus and Dillian's taken 8, which is a career high payday for Dillian Whyte by quite a bit. I think his highest was 4 million against Povetkin.
You know what? I heard Tyson Fury say earlier this week that in terms of his purse, like fight purse, Dillian, like not including like pay-per-view buys, Dillian hasn't made more than $1 million. Yeah, so that's quite surprising for me. I don't know how true that was.
Definitely saw that however he made the 4 against Povetkin.
Yeah, but that could have been.
But I was shocked by that. It must have been pay-per-view because Povetkin, it was in lockdown.
Yeah, it was pay-per-view.
So it wasn't thing. So he signed. Then the press conference the other day. I'm taking it you've watched some of it. Dillian obviously didn't show up. Just what's your thoughts on that? Like, give good and bad and pros and cons.
I don't know, man. Like, I know we spoke a little bit about it before, but like, I kind of feel like since Dillian lost to AJ, yeah, and even before the AJ fight, all the kind of back and forth between him and AJ, and then up until now, it's like I kind of feel like Dillian just moves a bit sour sometimes. I don't know. I mean, I can't say that for sure because I don't know what's going through his head. It could have just been him playing games, not turning up to the press conference. But obviously, we've seen him saying how he doesn't like how AJ's been treated as the golden boy and all this, rare. And then obviously, we had the thing where he was offered the AJ fight when AJ before AJ lost to Ruiz to fill in for Big Baby Miller. He was offered that fight and he turned it down to money. Obviously, probably thought he deserved more. I think it was money in the rematch clause that.
Yeah, it was it was if he won the first one, but it was 5.5 million. Yeah,
but still, it's like.
And again, at the time, this is before he had fought Povetkin, so he hadn't made no 4 million. Yeah. So his highest purse would have been whatever it was against Chisora.
Yeah. But then you've got him complaining all this time that he hasn't had his shot from the WBC. Which is a fair argument because he has waited a long time. However, he was offered a chance to fight AJ for other world titles. So he has had a chance to fight for a world title. And then now we're hearing he's not happy with the 80-20 split or whatever the split is. It's quite an uneven split. But again, it's like you haven't got any belts. You're fighting the pound for pound. Maybe not pound for pound best fighter in the world.
He's on the list, yeah.
He's the number 1 heavyweight in the world right now, hands down. There's no question about it. And there's still a problem. You're getting your highest payday, but you're still complaining about a split. For me, it's like just go and show these lot what you can do.
Yeah.
And then obviously we all deserve to get paid what we think we're worth. But when you really put certain things on paper, it's like, where's the argument to say you're worth more than what you're getting? Yeah, you know. And I mean, look, Tyson Fury. Let's not forget, if Tyson Fury never took his layoff and had boxed all through his layoff up until now, I honestly think he would already have been undisputed, and no one's getting a shout at them belts because no one's beating him. So all these belts that have been floating about, he's the guy that beat Klitschko
and he's
opened the gate for
all the belts
these
that float around.
If he had never taken his layoff and got himself into the place that he did, he might still have the belts. Do you know what I mean? And there would be no question about it who's worth what, because he's had the belts all this time. Obviously, that's if and maybe, but like, I just feel like not turning up to the press conference just adds to this kind of this sour image that he's kind of built for himself. I do like Dillian Whyte, and I do hope he does well. I do think outside of Wilder, he poses probably the biggest threat to Tyson Fury. In terms of what, he will bring the fight to Tyson Fury. We know that, and he's capable of doing that. But yeah, man, just like.
Yeah, I mean,
I just play ball, man.
I don't want to regurgitate what you were saying, but my point of view is the same. You know, I was having a chat with my friend Steven, and he was saying, you know, why don't they just give Dillian a little 10, like an extra 2 mil? And I'm like, when you look at what the guys have achieved, and I like Dillian, but it's going to sound like I don't, but if you look at what Dillian has achieved, he's only been British champion.
Yeah, and Tyson Fury himself was saying this.
You know, he's lost to AJ. Early doors, okay. He's had some close fights. I mean, he got dropped by Parker, but he won the fight. But nearly got stopped in the last round.
He arguably lost against Chisora.
He arguably lost against Chisora in the first one. He was losing the second fight. Okay, hats off. Perfect punch, knocked him out. But like, I'm not seeing these crazy dominant performances, you know. He knocked down Povetkin twice in the first fight and got knocked out, which can happen. But it's another loss. Rivas knocked him down. And again, at that weight, it can happen. Tyson Fury's been knocked down by Cunningham. But I'm saying Dillian has lost twice and been in close 12-round fights.
He hasn't demanded
like,
that.
I'm not looking at it to see like where... And even, say AJ. Say we're talking about AJ now. AJ's won and lost. And he's had some close fights. Even ones that he's won by stoppage, like Takam. It was kind of a close-ish fight. Like, Takam was giving him some problems. Povetkin gave him a couple problems. Wobbled AJ once or twice.
He's had a lot of problems.
Yeah, he's had a lot of problems. So, but the dominance that Fury has shown, especially in this comeback, is like, bro, I just don't see where you think you're going to be the A side or anything near 50-50 because the guy has not fought in England in 4 years or whatever it is. He's been fighting in America. He's got a fan base over there. He's just taken down 3 times or 2 times definitely their biggest puncher ever in heavyweight history. Their champion, you know, an African American. Like, I just don't see, and he's done it in dominant fashion. He's got up from the canvas and won the fight. You know, then he brocked him up in the second, and then he slightly brocked him up in the third. His fight purses of the last couple of years have been mad. Tyson Fury's, when you look at them. Then when you look at Dillian's, they haven't been that mad.
Yeah.
And one of his last fights was Povetkin. Then he had one in... Did he have one in Saudi? Oh, am I getting it wrong?
I don't think so.
He had one in Saudi on AJ's undercard, but I don't know if it was before or after the Povetkin thing. I really can't remember. But he has had a fight since the Povetkin one.
It would have been after AJ if it was in.
He didn't fight Otto Wallin. That would have kind of helped him because Fury had a bit of problems with Otto Wallin. And I think all these things come down to the split, if that makes sense, or they have a knock-on effect. But it's not even Frank or Tyson that has made the 80-20 thing. That's the WBC. So whatever their justifications are, like, don't really need to be attacking Frank, if that makes sense. It's still a massive amount of money, you know, that he's making. Like, if statistics are right, we don't know exactly what he's made, but it's definitely his biggest payday. But it's double. And I'm saying his promoter, or his boy in Eddie Hearn, didn't put in a big enough purse bid. And I'm hearing that he would have got 2 million less if the Zone did win. So, although Tyson's been calling him out on social media, I don't really get if he is unhappy, I don't really get what he's unhappy about. He was saying he wants money to come to the press conference. That could all be mind games. Does that make sense? He asked for a private jet. Apparently, they sent him a private jet, and he just didn't. He declined. Yeah, they sent him a private jet, and for him and his team, and he declined. And Tyson Fury, and I don't want to be a bum lick here or an arse lick, but Tyson Fury said something at the press conference, and when he was saying it, I was just like, "It's like this is a legacy fight. You're about to sell out a flipping football stadium, you know, against Tyson Fury, who's like the #1 heavyweight. You're both British. This is like the biggest
British fight.
You know what I mean? Like he could maybe have that same effect with AJ, but where AJ's lost twice now in the manner that he has lost, people still want to see it. But this is big boy. This is a big situation that some people are never ever in. And it's like you'd want to be there on the poster taking the photos.
The winner of this goes on to become undisputed heavyweight champion.
And you know what? I respect that he hasn't got time for the social thing and the whole the press conference itself, and he might want to focus on training. I kind of get that. But I'm like, for legacy purposes, and this is just my opinion.
Yeah, but training and all, turning up to the press conference.
I know, I'm with you.
You've been doing that your whole career.
Like, sell the fight. Like, because, like, people like us, the fans, or those interested, we're going to buy the pay-per-view. Now, it's not just a fight that we're buying, but we're buying into the press conference. We're buying into what you say you're going to do. Like, if you're like, you know, I'm really happy to be here. I'm mad enthusiastic. I can't wait for this moment. Then I know that, right, you're on this thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this is a big thing for you and your family. You're going to put everything into it. This is what your game plan is. This is how you're going to go about it. This is whatever. This is what you want to do after. I'm gonna like be watching the fight thinking, yeah, he's hungry because he said this, or you know, it adds into the fight, and we're gonna buy a pay-per-view, but it's like you're not really selling the fight to us. Although a lot of people are obviously gonna watch it, you're not selling the fight to us. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't say for our next man what he should and shouldn't do.
And we don't know the real reason.
Yeah, we don't. Like I said, he could just be focused on training, and maybe he feels like he don't want the mind games, and I think that's completely fine. If it's a thing where he don't want to engage Tyson in anything but physical combat, I kind of get that. But still,
I mean, yeah, I weren't too disappointed with him not being there, but like I said, like you was just saying, I don't want to see him going into the ring and have this idea that he's kind of sulking and isn't happy with what he's getting for the fight. I want to know that he's there and he's on job and he's gonna bring the maximum violence that he talks about into that fight. And I just think that just not turning up to the press conference doesn't help.
And he don't owe Frank. Sorry,
if he wants to be the big draw that Tyson Fury's become, that AJ is,
that's what he needs to do.
He needs to do these things. Yeah, you need to.
And I think he needs to be. He don't need to be, but it's like someone needs to shed light on the fact that Frank Warren and BT have made this, or Queensberry, whatever, have made this fight happen. If that makes sense, you know, they've put down the purse bid. They're bringing it back to England. Tyson, we've not seen Tyson fight in England. We ain't gone to see Tyson fight live. This is a new thing for us to do. So it does show that I get why Frank Warren is a bit annoyed in some of his interviews, like almost like Dillian is being ungrateful. And Dillian ain't got to go there and shake his hand and you know, get on his knees and thank him as such. But it's like it is a sign of like, you know, being ungrateful. Okay, cool. All of that's out of the way. How's the fight go? Well, we've spoken about this on other episodes briefly. Yeah. But now that it's here, I just want to see if we're saying anything different.
So what I think will happen is that Fury will stop him middle to late. Probably more likely late. I think the reason I say that is because Dillian has sort of a reputation of getting a bit tired towards the end of the fight, and if he's gonna be chasing Fury around the ring the whole night, then I don't see how that's gonna be any different now. However, if he can cut off the ring and really stick it on Fury, which I don't think he can do. I just don't think he will get near Fury. That's what my head's kind of telling me. But the only chance he has is to kind of stick it on him and land the big shots. Again, Fury's shown that if you're gonna beat him, you have to put him to sleep. And Deontay Wilder weren't able to do that. So I just don't see how Dillian can, unless he's landing like a real barrel, like a real assault on Fury. Like I just don't see how he's not going to lose the fight.
The problem with, I think, Wilder and Whyte, it's not a problem because they're obviously very good, but they throw like one punch at a time. And I feel like it might take more. Like kind of what AJ does. AJ can put his hands together. Yeah.
Like if AJ landed a good free...
Yeah, like AJ would land a right uppercut, left hook, right hand, another right hand, left hook.
If he could do that on Fury...
If Dillian could do that and land, he punches hard enough. Because the thing is, I think that's why Wilder couldn't get rid of Tyson. Although he's a one-punch knock, he's one punch. But when he gets up and you got to finish him, that's where AJ could do it. You know, AJ will cut off the ring, put the pressure on you. I'm not saying Dillian can't do it. Obviously, he can do it. Can he do it to Fury? Can he do it at that level?
We all know Fury's got a mistake in him as well.
Yeah.
But
but if it's going to be one punch, I find it difficult to see how Dillian will stop him with one punch. It's going to have to be more a TKO thing, kind of like the Dan Aziz Jose Burton, like that kind of high tempo, pushing him right onto the ropes.
Has Dillian got that in his locker?
I don't think Dillian... He might have it in his locker, but to do it at that against Fury, I don't know. He could do it against us, you know, but I've not seen it. I've not seen it. I do think Tyson has to be kind of careful for the first early rounds. because Dillian, although his knockout ratio isn't what Wilder's is, he can definitely bang. Like he can definitely bang. Like if you let him. But my thing is, I'm not a bit like AJ when the fight goes to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rounds, and this is what was so good about the Wilder and Fury third fight. They were actually fighting for the whole fight. They were fighting down and up, down and up. The tempo was quite high. Normally, AJ is in there with guys, or Dillian is in there with guys that don't really want to fight back, if that makes sense. But like when Dillian hits Fury in round 6 or 7, and the Fury catches him, and he's coming back and keeping it and pushing him back, I've not seen Dillian operate under fatigue when he's getting pushed back. Does that make sense?
And let's not forget, like Tyson Fury's proved that he can sit down on his shots and
as of late.
As well. Yeah,
and he was saying in the press conference, like
he's gonna try to get him out of there.
And he was saying he's gonna come in at a career heaviest. And this is what's scary about Fury. If he says he's gonna come in at a career heaviest, like it's scary. If he says he's gonna come in at a career lightest, it's still scary because it's like
he's so big.
Yeah, like it's either gonna be really agile or even bigger, and he seems to just carry his weight
very well, innit?
So well, you know. So I just don't. But you're right. Fury's got a mistake in him. So
yeah, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Like I just don't see on paper who can beat a good Tyson Fury. I just don't. I don't see, and anyone can say, "Oh, everyone's got a puncher's chance," but when you're getting up from what Deontay Wilder did to him, no one's got a puncher's chance. No one, unless you're punching harder than Deontay Wilder.
Yeah,
like you haven't got a puncher's chance.
Yeah.
So that's why, for me, he's one of the best heavyweights we'll ever see.
Yeah. Full package.
Yeah, he's got everything, and I'm a big fan of Tyson Fury. I'd like to see him win the fight. However, if Dillian goes in there and gets his game plan right and wins the fight against a good Tyson Fury, then I'm happy to see Dillian win it.
But that's crazy. I mean, again, if he beats a good Tyson, I don't think he beats a good Tyson Fury. I think I want to see him come in with the right game plan, in the right shape, at the right weight, be able to fight a good 10 to 12 rounds. And that way he gives himself the best chance. You know, he respects himself, he respects the sport, he respects his opponent, and he prepares himself like that. If he does that, he can give Tyson Fury problems. I do believe that he's probably poses the biggest threat to Fury out there, other than Deontay Wilder. But it's a bit like, not to go off topic, but it's a bit like Errol Spence. Like he had the car crash, and then he come back and he put on like a career best performance against Danny Garcia, to where we was all guessing like, how's he going to perform? And now we're looking at that thinking that was light work, you know, against a former two weight world champion. Fury's done the same thing. His career's kind of gone in two paths. He's had the depression. Prior to that, he was doing his thing. Had the depression. Come back and he's put on like, it's like he's in his prime.
Yeah.
Changed coach. He's put on a bit of weight, a bit of size. Had 3 of the best fights that he's probably ever going to have. So now I'm like, really, Fury is almost in a better place. Yeah. Although he had the big layoff and put on loads of weight, he's like slightly in a better place. Dillian Whyte's not had that many fights because he didn't have the Wolin fight. He got stopped by Povetkin, then he beat Povetkin in the second fight, which was convincing, but not... You understand where I'm coming from?
It was an aging Povetkin, isn't
exactly.
Like, yeah, man.
So yeah, we'll see. But so what's your sorry, go on.
I think Fury stops him late.
Yeah.
Fury stops him late. When I say late, I'm saying what? 8 to 10.
8, yeah.
8 to 10. But all that aside, like, it's exciting stuff, man. A British heavyweight title fight on British soil. I would have loved to have seen this be AJ and Fury for the undisputed thing, just for the sake of being around to say that I watched that fight.
Fury
AJ with AJ with a belt, fighting for a undisputed title. Like, I just think that would have been huge. Like, we're seeing how quickly the Dillian Whyte tickets sold out, and you was even saying before it, you don't think they'll sell out.
Yeah, and
they did 85,000 tickets in a few hours. So I just think that goes to show it's where British boxing is at the moment.
I'm I'm kind of like, your comment on AJ, just quickly before we finished. When he lost to Ruiz, because AJ's been built up where he's got this, like the Mike Tyson aura. He's got the squad around him, the Under Armour, like he's got Eddie, like he's well spoken, he looks good, well marketable and all these things. Like I feel like when he lost his fight to Ruiz, even though he won in the rematch, I feel like he lost that invincibility thing.
Yeah, it's the hype.
He lost that, whereas even when other guys have lost,
like your Mike Tyson.
Yeah, or like even Ali when he lost, like I didn't really feel like he lost that much. And then where AJ's lost again, I'm just like, maybe it's the manner of his losses.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like going a bit off topic, but I just
sorry, just to say my point with that when you were saying about you would love to see Fury and AJ, I'm just like,
I'm just saying in an ideal world.
Are we saying this because we're British?
If AJ still had his belt, just the draw that AJ is, like it would have been like too much. Whereas Dillian Whyte hasn't got that.
But like, bro, I feel like Dillian can give Fury the same difficulty in the fight that AJ can.
I think
maybe
he gives
more.
Maybe more.
Because I'm looking at AJ and I'm looking at stylistically a slightly confused fighter at the moment, obviously. But that's what Usyk can do.
But look where we're at now, like in a fantasy world. Dillian beats Fury, AJ beats Usyk when Usyk's back from
Ukraine. We're going to talk about that in a sec.
And Dillian and AJ are having it out for undisputed. Like that would
be massive.
Yeah,
that would be massive.
So yeah, man. Like
if they can do that, but it will be
that would be hard. Like
I'm sure Tyson Fury is going to have a rematch clause.
Oh yeah, but
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's got to beat him twice. AJ could get past Usyk. I think he's definitely going to be better than he was last time. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, my prediction, I got Fury when he wants, to be honest.
Say that again?
I think Fury against White, my prediction is that he stops him when he wants to. I still feel like he can get him out there early if he wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
And I feel like he might not chase for that, but Dillian might force him to. Because if he engages him like that. But again, Dylan's doing it very smart, regardless of his reasons. Like no interviews, no training footage, really, nothing. So we don't know his mindset. Well, we kind of know his mindset, but we don't know what he's coming with. So yeah, when is that again?
April 23rd.
That's April 23rd in Wembley Arena. Massive fight. Hopefully I can get myself
Wembley
on
Stadium.
the undercard.
Wembley,
Wembley Stadium. Hopefully I can get on the undercard. Just want to give props to obviously what's going on in Ukraine with the Russians, who we've got Lomachenko has gone over there to support. We've got both the Klitschko brothers and Usyk. Just a little hats off to them guys for going back over there and supporting their family. Obviously they don't necessarily have to go back over there financially. They could be anywhere else, and I think it's very honourable what they're doing, whether they're on the front lines or whether they're just supporting where they can. Must be very encouraging for them people there to have them over there. That will probably delay the AJ fight. I've seen comments that he might have a little, not warm-up fight, but
there was a little interview with Eddie Hearn.
Right.
They the reporter asked him the question. I don't know why they asked it, but they asked it. And Eddie kind of didn't want to speak too much on it because he was like, it's not really the right time. Yeah. But he did mention that AJ might have a little kind of interim fight.
Yeah. And I think like Eddie, I don't want to.
They have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, look, let's face, just to talk real without being bleak, like these man might not come back.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah.
I know Eddie just didn't want to.
See Klitschko in an interview saying that like he was in close combat where they killed 6 Russians.
Yeah, that's all wild.
He's really out there.
That stuff is just above my head, but it's like, I think Eddie was just kind of saying it's too. It's impossible to say,
and it's a sensitive subject.
Yeah, you don't want to talk. Yeah, so
but
there's more.
And I don't want to talk on it like that, but because there are bigger things. But it might be good for AJ to get in there with a southpaw, maybe if they can find him an international southpaw,
and maybe work on whatever.
Yeah, and just work on it, and just see, and it gives you a time to try out a new trainer, if you've got one. Unfortunately for Usyk, although he's dealing with bigger things, he is going to be somewhat inactive. These things could help.
All I'm saying is when Usyk gets back, God willing, AJ's in trouble, man.